Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we are going to be specifically talking about the Game of Thrones situation, the finishing of the show, and the lack of the finishing of the novel series, and specifically talking about the new occurrence that has happened because of the Game of Thrones HBO series and what it means overall for literature and for television. And the biggest, what that occurrence is that George Martin, really, in my opinion, for the first time at the macro level, for the first time in a large public setting, has flipped canon. He's flipped canon. And I'll define that. All right, so let's talk about it. All right, so actually, I'll define it right now. So Benioff and Weiss, they're the writers for the HBO show, and they did 2 or 3 seasons. I think it was 3 seasons at the end of the show. It was 3 seasons because there was 8, So it was essentially 3 seasons of the Game of Thrones show that they wrote, and there was no source material for it, right? Now, Benny and George R. R. Martin had written the source material, okay? So here, when we start the show, everybody's like, here's the real genius. This is George R. R. Martin. He has written this source material. It's an incredible amount of work. It's really, incredible books, incredible fantasy, all due respect to the genius who's creating the source material, right? And now you have, and then coming into that is Benioff and Weiss. And there's not a lot of respect for Benioff and Weiss because, or there's less respect for Benioff and Weiss, it's a better way to say it, because they're doing derivative work, right? They're bringing it to life in live action. But they're really just taking Martin's words and putting it on screen, right? So Benioff and Weiss are doing derivative work, and George R. R. Martin is doing source material work, right? Source work. And the canon is George R. R. Martin, right? Now, when we reach the end of the series of Game of Thrones, you have 3 seasons at the end that were written by Benioff and Weiss that George R. R. Martin hasn't touched, right? And this is the super important part of this. At that point, canon flips, right? The derivative material becomes the derivative material. The derivative work of Benioff and Weiss becomes canon, right? And it is my strong opinion, I really think this is where we're at. This is a new day. This is a new occurrence in modern times. If George R. R. Martin writes another word, if he writes another book, and he publishes that book is not canon. That is the derivative work. And now, for the first time in modern history, at the macro level, at the level of $500 million of public viewership, right? Of the public viewing what's happening, you really see a flip of canon where the derivative writers, the derivative workers, have become the canon creators. And the canon creator, if he ever creates another book, that's fan fiction. That's just a derivative work of what Benioff and Weiss have already established, right? They own the true canon. Benioff and Weiss are the true canon for Game of Thrones, and George R. R. Martin has become the derivative worker. Anything he does now, any legitimate fan of either the novels or the television show can say, well, oh, that's cute, George, but the reality is, Benioff and Weiss already paved this road that you didn't know how to even lay a brick on, and your work is the derivative work, and these are the source workers now, right? And that's truly incredible. That is an incredible occurrence within the structure of the of novel and television work, right? Now, this is a significant issue, right? And I think going forward, everybody's going to want to avoid this, right? So how can you fix this problem? Well, to me, we really need. It is definitely an issue that we need to think about and that we really need to address, right? So one of the issues that you can do is now with this happening, you can simply acknowledge and allow an anointing, right? So basically, we have to realize if there's a hugely successful series of books, right? there is a strong possibility that that writer is going to call out, like we all call, like, actually, I haven't called out of work in probably 10 years, but basically, many people will call out of work. They'll be like, I can't come in today, right? Well, with these hugely successful book series, these authors can call out rich, tired, or old, or some combination of those three, right? And say, oh, hey, I realize today I'm a millionaire and I'm not going to write the rest of those books, right? And right now there's a stigma against this, and it really shouldn't be, right? Like, we get it. You're a millionaire now, okay? You're going to spend your time bouncing from convention to convention and just being praised. Nothing wrong with that, right? Except people have series they want to finish. And so, they want to finish reading because you started writing those novels. So just simply anoint a new author. And this is a really big deal because, one, like, especially with Martin right now, it's clear that he doesn't really want, in my opinion, it's clear, he doesn't want to finish this book. Like, we're now 8 years past the publication of the last book. 8 full years, right? If that's like, let's say 350 times 2 is 700 times 4, 700 times 4, you're talking 2,000. Like, if he had written a page a day, right, we'd have 3 books. That's 2,800 pages, right? That's ridiculous, right? So at this point, it's pretty clear, in my opinion, that he is not finishing this, right? So with that said, you could choose a young author who has incredible talent and has shown that on 1 or 2 books, and then George R. R. Martin chooses them, anoints them, and saying, listen, we're going to recognize your talent. And then the other issue here too is a lot of these companies now, they all have, like, publishing is no different than many other companies. They have problems with intersectionality, right? Like, if you look at their backlog and say, who wrote these books, the people who wrote the book all share 1 or 2 attributes together, and that's not good, right? We want there to be a spectrum, a rainbow of different people have written books, right? So when you choose that next person, you could choose based on talent, and you could choose based on intersectionality. That helps society, and the rich author gets to go off and be rich, and the readers who were kind enough to buy all those books originally can finish the series that the first publication really promised. When you publish a book in a series, you are promising a finish, right? I think a lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's the truth, right? And in my opinion, right? And so here we really see this huge modern day occurrence where canon has been flipped, and Benioff and Weiss, who were the derivative workers, are now the source workers, right? And George R. R. Martin, who was the source worker, right, has now become the derivative work. And if he ever takes the time to write another Game of Thrones books, that book will be fan fiction. It really will not be canon in the least, right? All of that is my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.